Okay, class, today we're going to learn about animals on the farm and the sounds they make. Who knows what a duck says? Addie.
A duck says quack, quack.
Very good. Who knows what a cow says? Susie.
A cow says moo.
Excellent. Now, who can tell me what a pig says? Little Johnny. A pig says, "Get up against the wall, put your hands on your head, you black motherfucker!"
Huh? Want to go sleep on camera? Yeah, I'll put you to sleep on camera right fucking now. Well, let's beat it then, motherfucker. What you gonna laugh? You gonna sit there
Don't
and
do
talk
it.
shit?
Don't do it.
He's gonna beat my ass, but he's gonna sit there and stare and talk about beating my fucking ass. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. Fucking pussy. Boy, yeah, pussy. You're the one that's the pussy. Okay? Who got out of their car talking big shit? They're gonna beat my fucking ass. Beat my fucking ass, motherfucker. Come on. Beat my fucking ass. I'm telling you right now. Okay?
He's not gonna go to jail. No.
He's a fucking pussy motherfucker is what he is. That's what I beat motherfuckers like you in the fucking Marines like you was a fucking piece of fucking shit. That's all you are is fucking this mouth. Yeah, and this right here is going to go right fucking through it, motherfucker. Yeah, right. You don't think. Yeah, you think. Come on, take a shot. Shut up. Right there it is. Take a shot. Yeah, fuck you, nigger.
No, oh, wait. Get in your car, get in your car. Yeah, you should have never said nigger. You should have never said nigger. You should have never said that.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, it's important for us to understand the nature of our enemy. We have to understand that in reality, they are cowards. They won't dare try to attack you unless they're in a group or they have weapons or both. Or they simply try to go after weak targets. They try to attack women and children or try to attack our elderly. The only way they build up the courage to do the things they do is by feeding off of our fear. When the KKK was first created in 1866, they started off as a secret organization, and their main goal was to keep black people from getting any rights. Now, when they first started, they would ride around at night trying to scare any black people they could. And then when they saw there were no repercussions for what they were doing, they started to become more and more violent. They started burning down our homes, our churches, our schools. They started killing men, women, and children. There was one black woman in Tennessee that spoke out against the Klan. So they went to this woman's house in the middle of the night, pulled her out of her home. Then they stripped her naked, tied her to a log, and then started whipping her until they got tired. And then after they got bored of whipping her, they did the same thing to her daughters. Pulled them outside, stripped them naked, and then whipped them too. Now there's no way we should be allowing people to come in our communities and do that to us. We gotta understand how much the KKK was really cowards. Then maybe we wouldn't have as hard of a time standing up to them as we do. These white boys only attack people at nighttime. They put bags over their head to cover their face. Or they would shoot at people while they were hiding in bushes. Very rarely would they go one-on-one in a fair one because they know what would happen. But if somebody isn't going to follow the rules when they attack you, you don't have to follow the rules when you defend yourself. Too many of us talking about we're scared to die or we don't want any trouble when they're killing us anyway if we don't do anything. You might as well fight for your freedom and the freedom of your children. The only way they've ever been able to compete with us is by putting us at a disadvantage, and we allowed them to do it. But if we ever realize most of what they do is out of white fear, it'll help us get over our fear. And understand they were cowards then and they're cowards now. In Maryland, a young 22-year-old brother, Tyreke Hudson, was shot to death by his neighbor. So let's see what happened to this young brother, Tyreke Hudson.
Anne Arundel County Police back at the Colonial Square Apartments in Glen Burnie, collecting more evidence following Monday's murder of 22-year-old Tyrique Hudson and an all-day standoff with the suspect accused of shooting him.
We didn't know what we would find when we found him. There was potential to be other victims. There was a potential for him to assault our officers as well. So it was a very dangerous, very volatile, very fluid situation.
Police arrested 53-year-old James Verombeck on first-degree murder and other charges. Damaged windows at the apartment complex indicate how the SWAT team worked to get him into custody. During Verombeck's video bail review, we learned he may suffer from schizophrenia. He is on suicide watch, and at a hospital, he made admissions about killing a man. A judge ordered the suspect to remain held without bail. According to a court charging document, one witness told police he heard the shooting and then looked into the staircase and called to check on Mr. Hudson's condition, then saw a white male with long hair point a gun at him and say, "You're next." Court records also show the victim, worried about his safety, filed a petition for a peace order against Verombeck after a February 16th incident in which he claimed Verombeck said, "You knew this day was coming," as well as, "You know what you did." In the petition, Hudson wrote he didn't know what Verombeck was talking about, then claimed Verombeck gave him the death gesture using his thumbs across his throat. On February 19th, a judge denied the peace order request, saying the petitioner could not meet the required burden of proof. During the standoff, police at first were not exactly sure where the shooter was located. Then they pinpointed one apartment.
We cleared every other apartment in that building, and then when we were not able to gain entry into that one, it was kind of like if he's not anywhere else, he's got to be here.
Prosecutors also told the judge when Verombeck was arrested, he had a shotgun with him.
Now, a few months earlier, this young brother, Tyreke Hudson, tried to get a protective order or a peace order against this white boy, James Verombeck. Now, this white dude would randomly threaten him in the hallway of his apartment. One day, he told the brother, "You knew this day was coming." And when the brother was like, "What are you talking about?" the white boy was like, "You know what you did." Then he said the white boy gave him a death gesture, moving his thumb across his throat. So then this young brother, Tyreke Hudson, went down to get a restraining order or a peace order. But the judge, Davy Patterson Russell, denied this brother the peace order, saying he didn't have enough evidence. So then after the judge dismissed it because it wasn't enough proof, this brother Tyreke Hudson never said another word to this man. So then one day at random, this white dude, James Verombeck, ended up shooting his brother, killing him. One witness said when he heard the shot, he looked out and asked him was he okay, and he saw this white dude with a gun pointed back at him, telling him he's next. And now despite this brother not having enough proof for this judge, lost his life before he could get away from this white dude. And now people are calling for the judge to lose her job, but they gotta stay on code and protect her.
The Maryland judiciary won't give us a photo of Judge Davy Patterson Russell. The Baltimore City judge is serving on a temporary basis in Anne Arundel County as she awaits a ruling from the state's Court of Appeals. A commission tasked to oversee the courts recommended a 6-month suspension last year, citing her workplace conduct. It was on that temporary assignment in Anne Arundel County, Judge Russell reviewed a petition for a peace order in February.
I think if they would have gave him the protection order, that boy would still be alive.
TJ Hudson filed the order against his downstairs neighbor, James Verombeck, claiming he threatened him. But Judge Russell denied the order, citing Hudson could not meet the burden of proof. Monday, Hudson was killed, police say, by Verombeck in the stairway of their Glen Burnie apartment building.
I feel like they have failed my son. They failed me. He had a bright and promising future.
Hudson's mom and family now left wondering whether that order could have saved his life. Just 22 years old, Hudson was a recent college graduate who just started as a promising engineer with Northrop Grumman in Annapolis.
That could have saved his life had he been, given that restraining order and more action could have been taken. That could have very well saved this young man's life. But now he's gone, and somebody needs to be held accountable for that.
A Change.org petition is now up, started by friends in North Carolina pushing for Judge Russell to be removed, suspended, or forced to resign.
The courts in Maryland, somebody who is in positions of authority needs to answer questions to his family.
Now, they are still going to stay on code and protect this judge and hide this white woman pictures. But it turns out at the exact same time this judge was denying his brother requests, she was already being investigated for misconduct. and they recommended that she be suspended for 6 months. But now this brother Tyreke Hudson, who had just graduated college, had a good job in engineering, no criminal record, just getting his life started, and now it's over. Meanwhile, this thug, James Verombeck, had a long criminal record. He had domestic violence charges, reckless endangerment, he had a deadly weapons charge, disorderly conduct, and he was charged for having unlicensed firearms. But even with this white dude, they're still staying on code with him a little bit. Now this white dude who was armed and just killed somebody in cold blood had a nice long peaceful drawn out standoff, and the cop took time to debate him surrendering. And despite him being armed and just killed somebody, they were able to peacefully and safely go into his house and arrest him with no incident and take him to jail alive and well. And then they started talking about schizophrenia and mental illness and talking about he on suicide watch. But if he wanted to kill himself, he should have did it before he shot this brother. But they're already trying to pull the mental illness card, just in case somehow he gets off with this. This white dude, James Verombeck, did get charged. Unlike the white dude who shot Kevin Battle Sr., they didn't even arrest that white dude, Mark Jabin. But now with him, they're going to talk about how crazy he is. And he probably is crazy, but a lot of them are. Meanwhile, that code don't extend to a black cop like Mohamad Noor. All of a sudden, that code don't apply when you take the life of a blonde-haired white woman. And we already knew they were going to make Mohamad Noor pay.
We begin with some breaking news. For the first time, we're hearing from a member of the jury that convicted a former Minneapolis police officer of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter today.
Mohamad Noor is going to prison for shooting and killing Justine Damond. And our Lou Bergoose just got off the phone with a juror minutes ago and tells us what they had to say. Lou?
Well, guys, this juror did not want his name or his voice used, but he explained how they made their decision. He says the prosecution won the case with their expert witnesses and with cross-examination of Noor and the defense expert. He says there were 2 holdouts on the manslaughter charge at first, but they changed their minds after about 90 minutes of discussion. The juror told me about Noor. I feel bad for the guy. I feel bad for his family. But we determined he committed a crime, and in the end, no one is above the law. If Harity had screamed gun or weapon or shoot or something like that, or even if he had saw the cell phone and mistaken it for a gun, we could understand it. But even if you have a split-second decision, you're still responsible for the decision you make. And it was high tension in the courtroom when that verdict today was announced.
I want to begin by extending my deepest sympathies to the family.
With his voice cracking, Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman reacted to a jury of 12, finding former Minneapolis police officer Mohamad Noor guilty of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter.
Today and over the last year, we have done our job and done it well. This is a solid jury verdict, and we believe it will be upheld on appeal.
When the judge's clerk read the verdict inside the courtroom, there was little outward reaction. Noor looked down and straight ahead. Justine Damond's sister-in-law gave Justine's fiancé Don Damond a squeeze, and they shared a smile. Justine's family stayed in the courtroom for nearly all the heartbreaking evidence in the trial. Her father, John, didn't miss a moment of it, sobbing throughout body camera videos that showed his daughter's last dying breaths. Ultimately, the jury believed the state, that Mohamad Noor acted without regard for human life, in a reckless or wanton manner, elements needed for third-degree murder, and that Noor acted with culpable negligence, the element needed for second-degree manslaughter. Last week, when Noor took the witness stand in his own defense, he testified, "I saw a female in a pink shirt with blonde hair raise her right arm. I fired one shot, and the threat was gone." Noor called it a split-second decision. But his partner, Officer Matthew Harity, who likely had a better view from the driver's seat, didn't see Justine raise her arm. All he could see was a silhouette, and he admitted it would have been premature for him to fire. Noor's attorneys argued that his use of force was justified because he thought it was needed to save his partner's life. The jury disagreed. After the verdict was read, Noor's attorneys asked that he be allowed to be free on bail until his sentencing date. But Judge Catherine Quainton said, based on the seriousness of the charges, he should be taken into custody. And the former officer was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs.
We wanted justice, and we felt justice was that he needed to go to prison for the crime he committed. Thank you very much.
Noor will be sentenced June 7th. He faces 10 to 15 years in prison under the Minnesota sentencing guidelines.
Well, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey responded to today's verdict in a statement that said, quote, "What matters most for Minneapolis is how we respond in the days and weeks ahead," adding that he will stand behind the city's police officers who are committed to improving community-police relations. And Police Chief Medaria Arredondo echoed that statement, saying that he will ensure his department learns from this case and does all it can to help communities heal. We also heard from the president of the Minneapolis Police Union, Bob Kroll, who released a statement saying, quote, "The Federation respects the legal process and the findings of the jury." Her father also spoke, saying the family is satisfied with the outcome of the case. Our Kent Erdahl is live tonight with more on their reaction to today's truly historic verdict. Kent?
Well, Julie, you could see and almost feel the weight that this verdict had on the family after they left court today during a news conference. Justine's father, as Lou mentioned, sat in court throughout every piece of this trial, often breaking down, and today he spoke first.
It's been a painful journey from July 15th, 2017 to today. Justine was killed by a police officer, an agent of the state.
Justine tried to help. She called the police department to report sounds of a woman in distress. But that night there was a tragic lapse of care and complete disregard for the sanctity of life.
The jury's decision reflects the community's commitment to three important pillars of a civil society: the rule of law, the respect for the sanctity of life, and the obligation of the police force to serve and protect. We believe this guilty verdict strengthens those pillars.
I want to thank Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman for recognizing how unjust this act was and by making a just decision to charge this case.
We hope this will be a catalyst for further change.
This case is about Justine, and Justine lived to teach us about love. She lived to teach us about our own human potential. In her life, she committed to transform humanity, and her legacy is continuing that work today.
Justine's father added that the family believes that despite this verdict, the police department actively resisted that decision as that investigation went on, actively resisted this investigation. Now that's something that will come up likely in the civil case that the family is now bringing forward, can now bring forward now that this decision has been rendered. And many believe that that civil case could lead to one of the biggest payouts in the city's history.
Now, we all knew that this was going to happen. This white woman snuck up on him in the middle of the night, knocking on his car door, acting suspicious. He feared for his life, so he had no other choice but to open fire. But right now, all that Blue Lives Matter rhetoric is completely out the window. They don't need a toxicology report. They don't need to know if she was on drugs. They're not trying to hear, "I fear for my life." One juror even said, "I could see if he mistook a cell phone for a gun. So if this white woman had a cell phone, it would have been okay to shoot her." But in this case, this juror said, even if you make a mistake, you're still responsible. And now, all of a sudden, no one is above the law. No one that shoots a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman anyway. All of a sudden, they understand how justice works. And they feel like this particular cop needed to go to jail for there to be justice. When Philando Castile died, he didn't say anything. When this white woman died, they fired the police chief, got rid of the mayor, they cleaned house. When Philando Castile got shot, oh, well, you know, these things happen sometimes. It's just unfortunate and a tragedy. But with this cop, Mohamad Noor, now they can say he committed a crime. Now they can say a cop deserved to go to jail. And the police union don't have anything to say, but we agree with this decision. And you know what? This woman family is still talking about that ain't enough. They're not talking about we forgive you. Now they're talking about pillars to a civil society, including rule of law, respect for the sanctity of life, and the obligation of the police force to serve and protect. Now the question is, who are they supposed to serve and protect? And to protect from whom? And they tell us right to our face. They can't be any more obvious. They are sending us a message. And it's not like they think they're lying. They really think they're justified to do what they do to us. But we have to stop wasting our time trying to explain something to them that they understand far better than we do. They are the ones that created this system. We have no other choice but to focus on ourselves. At the end of the day, we are all we got. They respond with a sense of urgency to maintain their position. We have to respond with even more urgency than they do to get out of the position that we are in. And when we do that, we will get to where we need to be.
I see what's going on, baby. This shit real at this point. I got this shit on camera. Who is that? He about to kill the boy. He gonna let the dog kill the boy. They can't get the dog off him. He let the dog get him. They caught him before the dog got there. The boy finna die, dog.
And she's like really going ham right now. This me, she posing, my nigga. Like, this is crazy. She is like really, she said niggas is trying to bitch her. So look, she tagging Nipsey Hussle shit, my nigga. That's crazy. I don't know who Shorty is, but
KK, I'm on Facebook.
Yo, that's crazy. Or just don't mess his face up. Like, don't mess that. Fuck that.
He did do the face nice. I don't want to disrespect him. Like,
yeah, like
artist, he's lit. Like,
yeah, like that nigga word of mother, this shit is lit. But Shorty here saying niggas disrespect her, and she here tagging all this shit. We just asked her nicely, don't touch his face.
K-Y-K-Y.
Yo, word of mother, like she came over here on some shit. She said, fuck everybody. Like, yeah, word of mother, my nigga. Look at this shit, my nigga. Like, she tagged this shit. This is crazy. Like, we just begged her, Shorty, please don't tag. Like, my nigga, look at this shit, my nigga. Not his face. Just don't do his face, my nigga. Just go do the other side. Don't do his face. Word of my mother, nigga, I ain't going to jail behind no crazy chick. These niggas on Facebook talking about some smacker.
Nah, I can't even do it like that.
You say you did that for Facebook?
nah, like, people were just talking shit about, like, the dick and shit on here.
Yeah.
So, and they were like, oh, that if somebody come and tag you, they about to shoot me, they about to stomp on my face, whether I'm a girl or not. So, where people at? I'm doing it.
I don't think it's worth that, though. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody's about to do it to me. I'm just not no bitch. Like, you're not about to say it.
Yeah, but what Nipsey deserve? He doesn't deserve it.
Hyper, no him.
Nipsey Hussle fans were seething after a woman defaced a mural in Hartford, Connecticut, but cops are giving her the A-OK to do whatever she wants. It all went down at a skate park in Hartford over the weekend. Somebody had put up a mural for Nipsey Hussle. Obviously, the death of the rapper shook the entire country, the entire world, and even though Hartford's a long way from Los Angeles, they were still showing their love for him out there. Video went viral of the woman defacing the mural, spray painting a lot of not safe for work material over it, and apparently doing it to gain internet clout.
This me, she posing, my nigga. Like, this is crazy.
Fans wanted the woman to be criminally charged, but the cops put out a statement saying that she did nothing wrong. They explained that that skate park allows graffiti of all types and freedom of expression, and they said that many works of art are usually altered. Now, they didn't say that they are usually altered in the way that this woman altered the Nipsey Hussle mural, but it appears that what she did is protected. Luckily, fans jumped to the aid of the fallen rapper, and they have already fixed the mural. The woman has been identified and has taken down all her social media postings, and cops are urging people to show no violence to her if they see her.
Atheist, you need to go to fucking hell real fast. I don't need to know what I'm doing. You
are.
You motherfucking piece of crap. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you? You are so angry. You are so angry. Yeah, you're damn right I am. World star. Look at this. None of your business. What are you, Dr. Phil? They're taking him off should TV be. because I he's should fucked be. up. His little Barbie doll wife. What about you? You mad at everybody. None of your business. You're not my therapist. You need one, bitch, real soon. What do you need? You need a fucking therapist, and you need to suck dick, and you need a whole bunch of other things. I'm not going anywhere. Fuck you. Call a papa. I suck their dick. Motherfucking asshole. Get your phone, get your Apple and shove it up your ass, you ugly nigger motherfucker.
Oh man, what's up?
Give me my motherfucking sandwich. I haven't eaten all day. Is that your problem? Don't get in my conversation. I'm talking to him, and you're criticizing me about what I'm saying, and I wasn't even talking about the store. I was talking about a motel room. Suck this. How about that? You don't suck dick. Do you suck fingers?
Yeah, no problem. Is it dick
I
like
got 10 of them for you to suck. 10. Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up? In a trailer park? You trailer park nigga trash? Bitch, you the trailer park trash? You's a fucking hater. I'm gonna tell you something. She's tearing your store up. Look at this angry ass. I'm not tearing any store up. I want my sandwich and I want motherfucking out of here. Bye. Ain't nobody stopping you from paying for this, Marshall, and get the fuck out. Marshall ain't paying for shit, you angry bitch. What do you know what Marshall's coming with us?
Yes.
How about that?
3104.
Good, you can suck his dick. Never, baby. It won't take long. It's really little. Oh, you already know? No. Nasty whore. You like niggas, don't you? That's why you fucking them. No. Yeah. I'm in love with Ron G. Who the fuck is Ron G? He must be the devil. A crackhead. Oh, is that your problem? Oh, we got plenty crack for you. I don't do jokes.
Oregano.
I do people. Where'd you get this ugly nigger from? So you a cannabis? You a cannibal? Was it a cannabis? Yeah. She needs some cannabis. I'm hungry. I've been in this motherfucking store for half an hour. Can't you make a sandwich? Asshole! Suck this. How about this? Just go away from me. Excuse me. Excuse me. You're not getting through this way with your ass.
No.
I'm scared for you to walk past.
Angry.
Walk around. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, wait a minute. My bad, Mark. I'm on probation. You put that shit on Facebook.
You have nothing better to do than that?
Mom,
shut up your ass!
I'm sorry.
Get away from me.
No, she didn't. She didn't.
Did you get her away? What are you doing?
I
have the right to privacy in this country. You don't put me. You ain't no right to nothing. Not the night you not. You better take your motherfucking ass somewhere before you get your ass stomped on the ground. Legs and the big tits? You is jealous as hell. Jealous? Would you like some of these big tits? Honey, go ahead. I got a great set. Ew. Okay? Ew. I hate you. Good. You're ugly, you're a nigger, you're arrogant, bitch. And you're in my face from the minute I walked in this door.
Oh! Don't touch.
Stupid bitch. You lost your mind.
This happened here at Horace Mann Elementary School. We are talking about really young kids involved in this. Both Dyson's grandson and the other student, who's white, are in first grade.
He called him the N-word, he used the B word and the MF word, and then he says, I'm going to go home and get my father's gun and come back and shoot you.
You may recognize Michael Eric Dyson, a well-known author, Georgetown professor, and TV contributor. He's also a grandfather and was furious when he learned what 6-year-old Maxim went through at school.
When he said I got a gun, I got scared.
It happened in the lunchroom at Mann Elementary. Dyson says Maxim and the other student were rushing to be first in line.
Unfortunately, this represents for us the deep and abiding roots of white supremacy that are set loose in this country. How can a 6-year-old kid know to call his classmate the N-word?
He says he and his wife went to the school along with Maxim's dad and were surprised to learn what happened with the other student.
The child finished out the day, which is incredible to me.
A spokesman for D.C. Public Schools says that child was spoken to by the principal, and school officials are now determining discipline and scheduling a meeting with the child's parents. He says while the school believes a threat was made, it's still investigating whether there was a racial element. The Dyson family says this is especially difficult because they've been through it before.
It reminded me of my elder grandson, Mosi, who last year was also a victim of racial epithets.
He no longer attends Mann Elementary.
When Maxim felt that pain when he said all those bad words and all that aggression, I felt very bad for him that he had to go in that particular way. And I just felt mad that I had to go through that way too.
The spokesman for D.C. Public Schools says the school system does track incidents of hate and discrimination. We are working to get those numbers both for this year and prior years as well.
Everyone was coming up to me. It was like the talk of the school the rest of the day and the day after.
Juelz Trice is a shy 13-year-old who prefers to be out of the limelight. Recently, he was front row center when two staff members at Barry Miller Junior High did this, drew on his head for all to see as a form of punishment.
He came over and said, you have two options. You either can go to ISS or color it in.
Trice's parents tell me they were never notified and didn't know something was wrong until their son told them.
When it first happened, I was very upset because I didn't find out until after he got off the bus and he was getting inside the car and he was like, "Mom, look what they did to my head."
Pearland ISD's dress code does say, quote, extreme hairstyles such as carvings, mohawks, spites, etc. are not allowed. It does not say how to handle it if a student violates that. In addition to embarrassing Juelz, Dante Trice said they could have put his boy at medical risk by putting chemicals on open pores.
It was wide open because he had just got his haircut the day before, so it was wide open.
I reached out to Pearland ISD, and in a statement they admit, quote, a campus administrator mishandled disciplinary action and that what happened is not condoned by the district. The administrator allegedly behind it all is currently on administrative leave and further action is forthcoming.
They just telling us, you know, it's being handled, but nobody has said what is going on. That's all that they're giving us, haven't given us any other information at all.
I'm totally disappointed.
Tre che avete firmato l'accordo di pace.
And to the three of you who have signed the peace agreement,
vi chiedo come fratello,
I ask you as a brother,
rimanete nella pace.
Stay in peace. A process.
Che finisca bene.
Alright, and we back on the forecast. Now, we as a people have to understand that we are at war. We have to be careful about how we move, the things we do. There's already so many obstacles in our way for us to be tripping ourselves up. Them criminalizing us isn't anything new. Right after chattel slavery ended, one black code in Alabama said it was the duty of any civil officer to report the names of any black children whose parents couldn't afford to take care of them. Then they would arrest their parents for being poor and sentence them to hard labor. And then on top of that, they would fine them and keep them in jail until they paid off their debt. But since they were already sentenced to hard labor and put back into slavery, they could never pay off their debt. and then their children would be sold off to become an apprentice, which was the new name for slave, and their former slave owners would have the first opportunity to get them. Government organizations like the Freedmen's Bureau, created by the Republicans who so-called ended slavery, went around tricking and forcing these black people to sign these sharecropping contracts, essentially putting them back into slavery. Because no matter what they tell you, they were never about ending slavery. And now today in Alabama, a young woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard, she ended up getting beat by Tuscaloosa police after a traffic stop. So let's go back and see what happened to this young woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard.
Now to a police confrontation caught on camera that's raising new questions this morning. A police officer is accused of using excessive force against a 22-year-old woman, and she's now speaking out. ABC's Steve Osunsami is in Atlanta with more on this. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. We don't see what happens before the officer pulls this young woman over. Police say he was responding to a hit and run, and the police chief this morning says he is disgusted and embarrassed by what happened.
Driver's license, proof of insurance.
Tuscaloosa police are putting sunshine on this routine traffic stop that turned violent.
Tell you what, go on, step out.
Police body camera video shows one of their officers making an arrest Friday.
Are you serious? Sir. Have you lost your freaking mind?
22-year-old Jhasmynn Sheppard is begging the officer not to arrest her, and as she turns around, it's not clear how, but she ends up on the concrete with the officer on top of her.
They know what they did was completely uncalled for.
Sheppard says police used excessive force.
My face in the ground, I can't even breathe, and I'm telling him to get up. I can't breathe, so I'm grabbing.
People passing by recorded this cell phone video showing a second officer joining in, one of them beating her with a baton. Here's what one of them says when the beating is over.
111-10-4, start medical this way. No. Shut your mouth!
You do anything other than what you're told to right now, I'm going to kick you in the teeth. Do you understand me?
Police are investigating.
I was disappointed in the officers. I was disgusted by what I saw, what I heard, and I was embarrassed by it.
They've charged this woman with leaving the scene of an accident, resisting arrest, and assault. But because of this video, authorities are now considering dropping the charges.
So this young woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard, was pulled over because she left the scene of an accident. And when Officer Cole Ward pulled her over, she pulled over. He asked for her ID, so she tried to give it to him. But before she could get it, he told her to get out the car. Then this cop, Cole Ward, started trying to handcuff her. So she turned around and started pleading for him not to do what he was doing. But the way he sees it is she immediately started to resist. So then this cop, Cole Ward, throws this woman onto the ground. And that's when another cop, Steven Lackey, comes running out of nowhere and then jumps on top of this woman. And as she's saying she can't breathe, they're laying on top of her with her face on the ground. Now the cop said she was grabbing him and grabbing at his baton. But it's two grown men who are supposed to be trained cops sitting on top of a woman. So then you can see one of the cops start hitting this young woman in the face with the baton. Then the cops started to threaten her. One of them said, if you bite me, you're going to lose every last one of your teeth. And they started calling her a dumb bitch. And then even after they cuffed her, they kept talking to her. And one of them even said, you're lucky I didn't put my gun to the back of your noggin and make you obey. These cops out here giving mafia threats to women. And he also started telling her how lucky she is because he didn't shoot her. And one of the cops said, if my sunglasses are damaged, you're going to be criminally charged for that too. Despite the black police chief saying he's disappointed and there's no room for that on this force, they ended up charging this woman for getting beat up, and they didn't charge the cops for anything. They ended up charging this woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard, for getting beat up by the cops, but they didn't charge the cops at all.
You know why I stopped you?
It started as a traffic stop. A Tuscaloosa police officer pulled over this woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard, suspected of leaving an accident. The officer asks the woman to step out of the car as he tries to handcuff her.
Sir. Sir,
Are
please.
you serious?
Sir.
Have you lost your freaking
Sir, please. Please.
The two struggle and the officer's body camera falls off. Another officer arrives and the struggle continues.
Give me your hand! Give me your hand before I break it off!
The attitude, the language, definitely offensive. Berating, making threats, there's no place for it, there's no need for it.
Tuscaloosa's police chief says he first saw this video Saturday when it went viral on social media.
I didn't see anything excessive at that time. I saw one strike with an asp, and it appears that after Ms. Sheppard was struck with the asp that one time, that she began to comply.
If you bite me, you're gonna lose every one of your Chief, you understand me?
After the body camera is picked up, video shows Sheppard restrained.
If you do anything other than what you're told to right now, I'm gonna kick you in the teeth. Do you understand me? I am fed up.
One officer claimed the woman grabbed him. She responds, "I didn't." The officer then says,
You're lucky I didn't put my gun in the back of your noggin and make you obey. You're lucky that we restrained you.
Both officers are on desk duty and will go before a disciplinary board. The chief says the officers didn't follow training.
I was disgusted by what I saw, what I heard, and I was embarrassed by it because it does not reflect our core values here at the Tuscaloosa Police Department.
We asked the police chief if he thinks the officers deserve a second chance. He told us he's going to reserve his comments and move forward with the disciplinary process.
Now, they charged this young woman, Jhasmynn Sheppard, with resisting arrest, disarming a cop, and second-degree assault for getting beat up by the cops. And 2 of them are felonies, plus leaving the scene of an accident, which the police chief said should have just resulted in a ticket. They didn't even have to escalate it this far. And the police chief said it's uncalled for and there's no place for it. And he even said he's considering dropping charges on this young woman. Now, these cops were put on desk duty. They haven't been fired. But when the police chief was asked do they deserve a second chance, then he decided to reserve his comments. Because they don't have respect for our lives. Men, women, children, older, younger. In Kentucky, a 16-year-old, Gynnya Mcmillen, died in a juvenile facility, and they didn't even find her body until 10 hours after she passed.
Like, anytime that someone is dealing with children and they are not doing their job, that they should be held accountable, especially when a child loses her life.
Set today for arraignments on charges of official misconduct in the second degree.
Victor Holt and Reginald Wyndham were working at the Lincoln Villiage Juvenile Detention Center in Hardin County when 16-year-old Gynnya Mcmillen died there. The Kentucky medical examiner says she died from a heart condition in January. However, state officials say the 2 men falsified documents at the facility and did not adequately supervise the teen.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I feel like if something was wrong with her heart, it's because of the stress or the physical altercation or whatever they did when they restrained her.
According to investigators, a martial arts hold was used on the 16-year-old but had nothing to do with her death. Mcmillen was taken to the detention center from Shelbyville after an altercation with her mother.
She's hurting. She's hurting. Not only, just the last incident, but she'll never see her daughter again.
Mcmillen's loved ones are fighting for justice. Armed with signs, they stood in front of the Hardin County Courthouse Friday to rally for support. They're hoping for a fair outcome in the case.
I am very concerned that they will not be held accountable and receive the proper punishment for what they did, because it seems like it's irregular for officers, people who work in state facilities, and government not to be held accountable.
Investigators can now report that no trauma, internal injury, or any type of asphyxiation contributed.
Gynnya Mcmillen was brought to the Elizabethtown Detention Center from Shelbyville. But on arrival, investigators say she refused to be searched for drugs and weapons. She was then restrained by a martial arts hold.
Investigators all found that it played absolutely no role in her death.
The cause of death is attributed to the inherited long QT syndrome that affects the electrical system of the heart.
The state got help with genetic testing from the Mayo Clinic. Family attorney Ron Hillrig says he has no reason to doubt the findings, but he adds this.
Obviously, we want to get all the records, Steve, and have our own expert look at this and see if he agrees with what the coroner and the medical examiner here are saying as well.
Justice Secretary Tilley is troubled by other findings.
Investigators uncovered a pattern of employee misconduct that occurred over and over at Lincoln Villiage following the restraint, in the hours following the restraint.
When the teen was placed in that martial arts restraint, one of 2 cameras was not working.
For 4 minutes and 6 seconds, she was lowered to the floor in the restraint. She went behind the counter in the intake area, and the camera would have been on the back side shooting in that direction.
The only camera that could have captured the struggle with this child behind the desk was inoperable at the time. That's very troubling to me.
Now, this 16-year-old girl, Gynnya Mcmillen, was arrested because she got into an argument with her mother. Now, I'm not saying her mother did or did not call the police on her, but don't ever call the police on your children, because you may never see them again. Don't call the police on any family member, especially for help. So they ended up taking her to the Lincoln Villiage detention center, and she was complying, and they tried to say she refused to be searched for weapons or drugs, but she wasn't. She just didn't want to take off her sweatshirt. So then the judge staff decided to take her down with a martial arts Aikido-style takedown. Now, the jail staff is supposed to check on their inmates every 15 minutes, and they falsified their records about doing it. Gynnya Mcmillen's family said there's video of this 16-year-old girl having seizures right before she took her last breath, and they still didn't even find her body until 10 hours later. Now, they made sure to say nothing they did caused her death, but this 16-year-old girl who never had symptoms before naturally died in her sleep, right after somebody put a martial arts move on her. They claim she had an undiagnosed pre-existing condition, and they only charged the jail staff with negligence because they wasn't checking on her. Now, this is another 16-year-old kid gone just because she got into an argument with her mom. And they blame this 16-year-old girl's death on anything but themselves. But this is why we need to be on code and why we need to be protecting each other. We need to build institutions. If we need somebody to call, we need to call our own. And we need to build institutions in order for us to get justice. And if we can't get on code to protect ourselves and to protect our children and give them the best opportunity in the future possible, then I don't know what it's going to take.
Nick. I got peelers on my face.
Oh. That's smelly.
Video appearing to show white students in blackface sparking outrage in a South suburban community.
Students at Homewood Flossmoor High School are getting ready to walk out of class to protest. CBS 2's Audrina Bigas is live outside the school. Audrina, what exactly are the students demanding?
Well, plain and simple, these students want to see the 4 boys that are seen in that video punished. They want to see some type of discipline here. And after talking to students and parents today, it is clear that there's lots of tension and lots of outrage. I'm actually going to drop my umbrella just to show you what's going on behind me now. Over my shoulder, you'll see flashing lights. Police are here getting ready for this walkout. Over my other shoulder, parents, community members starting to gather here already an hour before that protest and walkout is set to begin. This video was seen thousands of times before it was taken down. It appears to show Homewood Flossmoor students driving around with black smeared across their faces.
They play around a lot, and this was just to like the breaking point.
They should have been suspended or expelled, or something should have happened to let these guys know that it's not okay.
Instead, students say the guys in the video are at school today. The school sent out this statement calling the video highly offensive and culturally insensitive, but administrators won't say if or how the students will be disciplined.
Our school is not doing a good job of protecting our rights. They are protecting the guys who did this.
They literally have escorts to each and every class. They leave 5 minutes ahead of everybody.
Students tell us one student in the video has already apologized, claiming he didn't know what blackface was. But for some, that apology just isn't enough.
To me, it's just disgusting to see that's people who I associate with, I sit with in class and laugh with and, have spent time with, that they would do something like that.
We don't want to be blinded by the fact that this stuff exists and it needs to be addressed now.
So earlier this morning, some students talked to me. They were concerned because they were getting threatened that if they walked out, they were going to face some type of suspension or get in trouble. But we just got a letter from the superintendent of this district saying that the administration supports these students' right to express themselves about this video.
It is the talk here in Piscataway, with people using incendiary words like troubling and disturbing. 2 social media posts of white high school students in blackface, along with racially offensive language, creating a wave of controversy and concern here at Piscataway High School.
I think it's a smack in the face to
on black people.
It's disgraceful. I think it indicates a lack of sensitivity.
School Superintendent Teresa Rafferty says the posts emerged last Thursday when a student at the school reported them to the principal. In both cases, we've redacted the identity of the posters and any offensive language. In this one, a white male student in blackface with the caption, "Can a fellow black man tell me how to apply for a N-word pass?" In this one, a white female also in blackface, which school officials say was actually created 3 years ago, but never reported to them. They believe it may have been reposted last week. The school superintendent says the students in question have been identified. And when the principal of the school asked the students why they did it,
The principal said that the students thought that this was a joke only intended for a few friends. They did not quite understand the magnitude of their actions.
She says the two students have now been disciplined. She would not say how. The principal of the high school sent out this email to students and parents, assuring them Piscataway prides itself on being an inclusive and respectful community. At this time, our investigation indicates that this behavior is limited to a small circle of students.
I think it was just dumb. I don't know why they did it.
Some students we talked to say they know the posters involved and believe though what they did was wrong.
It definitely shouldn't have not been on social media, but knowing the two people, they definitely didn't mean it in any kind of demeaning way.
School officials say they'll be offering additional discussions on racial sensitivity at the school to try and make sure something like this does not happen again. Incendiary words and images now bringing some most unwanted attention to this community.
There are new developments tonight involving two young girls from Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda who posted on social media a picture of themselves in blackface and using the N-word. Now, we're not going to show you the offensive photo, but we do know that they have been suspended from school. Our Scott Broom talked with an African-American student leader there to help all of us understand why this is no joke among kids to just brush off.
If you're an African-American kid here at Whitman High School in Bethesda, you're in a real small group, just 4%. And while a lot of people would say there aren't any racial problems here, just listen for a moment to freshman Madison Boyd. Talk about how alienating it is to see social media posts coming from kids you thought you knew, only to find out what they're really thinking is okay to say.
It is very difficult for me to be able to trust other individuals at this school because I do not know their mindset and if they would do things like this, because I was very surprised about what happened the other day. So now moving forward, I am very hesitant about interacting with other people because of this.
Kind of makes you feel like you're in a box.
Exactly.
Boyd capturing the damage that's done and why the administration here has reacted so strongly. The principal here calling the blackface and N-word social media posts by students deeply disturbing and unacceptable. Professor Neil Lesser of Arizona State University teaches courses on the N-word in our culture.
That's a myth that the kids don't understand. You can certainly conflate the issue of social media with the use of this word. But the problem seems to be that kids only start owning up to this when they've been caught. And lots of people try to apologize it away or justify it. And there is none when parents and adults haven't really dealt with race deliberately and intentionally and honestly.
And we are all very uncomfortable after the situation because the environment at Whitman is very tense towards minorities and there is a lot of racial tensions.
For Madison Boyd, she says the tension here has been both subtle and overt. Teachers who assume black kids don't know answers or are athletes. Boyd says she's been harassed by older boys calling names because she says they know they can get away with it. Which is why Boyd and other minority student leaders here in the Minority Scholars Program are on a mission to elevate the conversation out in the open. Right now they're producing a video project, a project about who they are, why they matter, and why using the N-word out in the open or in secret is no joke, no way. At Whitman High School in Bethesda, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
According to the Minority Scholars, Whitman's minority population is 4% African American, 10% Hispanic, and 14% Asian.
In September of 2016, 13-year-old Tyrique King was shot and killed by a white police officer. Now, 4 teenagers who were with him are being added as third-party defendants in a civil rights lawsuit over the Ohio teen's death. King's family doesn't believe the teen should be held financially responsible, but the city of Columbus does, saying their behavior was partially to blame for his death. Police said the group rode in a stolen car after robbing someone of $10. The department saying responding Officer Brian Mason shot King when he pulled at something in his waistband that appeared to be a firearm. It was actually a broken BB gun. Now, King's grandmother is suing, claiming her grandson's death was the result of excessive force, racial discrimination, and failure to properly investigate. If Officer Mason is found liable for damages, the teens could also be on the hook.
Hey, what you hitting them for? Hey, look at this shit. He ain't resisting. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at this dude. Look at the officer. Look at him. He started slapping. He ain't even resisting. Look. Look at him, y'all. He ain't even resisting. Look at tough ass. Look at tough ass. He just hit him 5 times for no reason. He hit him 5 times. He hit him 5 times. Get the size. It was him right there. It's blood right there. He hit him 5 times. It's him. That's the one who done it. He did it. He done it. Him right there. Now he's finna hit the baby. Now he finna hit the baby. Now he finna hit the baby. Tough ass finna hit the baby. Now he finna hit the baby. Now he finna hit the baby. Tough ass pussy. Fuck wrong with him. I ain't going over there. I ain't worried about no motherfucker touching me. I'm straight. I ain't worried about no motherfucker touching me. Nobody.
I'm not going to disclose that information.
Let me give you some advice. When we're on a traffic stop, you are not legally allowed to walk up and interfere with our traffic stop. You can stand back and record as much as you want to. But if you interfere with a traffic stop again, I'm going to arrest you for interfering. Okay. You understand that? Don't ever interfere when one of my guys is on a traffic stop. Okay? My name is Sergeant Dave Ernst. I'm with the State Police Gang Task Force. All right? This is your last warning. If you ever walk up on one of my officers during a traffic stop, I will place you under arrest.
All right.
You good?
Yes.
All right. You're free to go.
Okay.
Did you want to talk to us?
Am I being detained? What?
You will never detain.
Okay.
Ever.
Is that person being detained?
He wasn't. None of your business. It's none of your business.
I think it is my business.
How is it your business?
Because I'm a human being and I...
You have no interest in that traffic stop whatsoever. It's none of your business.
There is a lot of racial profiling in this town.
Shut up with that crap.
Okay.
There's a lot of,
There's a lot of idiots, officer.
Yep.
Go, let's go. You're gone. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I can stay and talk anytime I want to.
Go ahead. Ready to protect yourself.
Excuse me?
We have a live video going right now.
I'm talking about racial profiling. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Who's being racially profiled?
That individual.
For being in a gang?
For what?
Exactly. Just being brown.
For being brown.
Yes.
Exactly. Wow. You are about as ignorant as I've ever met.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my goodness.
You're the one who's making these things happen, sir.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You guys, go do something else. Go have fun. Go do something. It's Friday night, man. Don't be such an idiot. Stupid people. Put that on the website for a month.
A former mentor for a Fort Bend County juvenile facility is behind bars, charged with indecency with a child. 64-year-old Deborah Sutter was having improper contact with one of the young boys who was staying there. Channel 2's Andy Sirota has new details on that story. He's live at the jail where Deborah Sutter is being held. Andy?
Dominique, Deborah Sutter underwent background and fingerprint checks annually. Investigators tell us they don't really know much about her other than what they saw on the video and what was said by the juvenile that she allegedly had sexual contact with.
As a mentor with Fort Bend County's Juvenile Probation Department, Deborah Sutter volunteered her time to help kids who've experienced trouble in their lives. Tonight, the 64-year-old is accused of having sexual contact with one of her mentees, a boy she'd been spending time with for the past 10 months.
She doesn't fit the mold. I think that's what makes this interesting, doesn't it?
Investigators say a staff member at the Juvenile Detention Center had been looking at the video feed from a surveillance camera in the room during a visitation and noticed some inappropriate touching.
what really caught his attention was their seating arrangement. They have a certain seating arrangement that is prohibited. They're supposed to sit across from each other at a table. They were side by side. And they were side by side.
Detectives investigated prior meetings between the pair and say they saw more inappropriate contact on a number of occasions. They interviewed the juvenile, arrested Sutter, and when they questioned her, they say she confessed.
All she said was that this child, she felt sorry for the child. He seemed to be doing better. He was getting into a leadership program with the Juvenile Detention Center.
All of the visits with minors she has mentored over the past 3 years are now being investigated. That number is 14, 9 of them boys. Investigators are compiling a list.
The county's chief juvenile probation officer released a statement to us tonight. It reads in part, the Fort Bend Juvenile Probation Department has a zero-tolerance policy on any form of abuse or inappropriate conduct. The safety and well-being of our youth is our highest priority and one we do not take lightly. This inappropriate volunteer is no way a representative of our other valued community mentors. Be assured that misconduct by anyone towards our youth is taken seriously, investigated, and vigorously prosecuted. Sutter is being held here at the Fort Bend County Jail tonight on a $50,000 bond. If anyone is aware of Sutter being involved in any other type of child-related activities, they're being encouraged to call the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office.
A New York judge ruled that a school bus driver who raped a 14-year-old girl will not serve any prison time. Shane Pesci was a bus driver for the Watertown City School District in upstate New York, where he reportedly met the 14-year-old student. Pesci, in his 20s, raped the girl at his home in June of 2018 and was arrested in September. Local station WWNY reports that the victim's mother said Pesci, quote, bought her daughter gifts and invited her and other minors to his home where he gave them alcohol. Pesci pleaded guilty to a third-degree rape charge in February. At sentencing, Judge James P. McCluskey did not include any jail time, as Pesci was sentenced to 10 years probation and required to register as a Level 1 sex offender, the lowest risk designation. According to the Watertown Daily Times, Judge McCluskey stood by his ruling, saying that Pesci was never arrested before and there was only one victim. The victim's mother told WWNY in a statement that she wished Pesci received jail time, adding, quote, he took something from my daughter she will never get back and caused her to struggle with depression and anxiety. The lack of a prison sentence has sparked outrage, as an online petition to recall the presiding Judge McCluskey has reached over 9,000 signatures.
Dat blijft niet vrienden. Ik ga vrienden zijn, draag me nog één keer aan, je gaat zien wat gaat gebeuren. Waarom? Omdat wij een vraag nog één keer aan, je gaat zien wat gaat gebeuren. Omdat wij een vraag stellen. Draag me één keer aan, draag me één keer aan. Dan gaat de mesje bovenhalen. Ga je zo uit. Nee, houd uw vraag op tijd voor de wijk. Hey, don't touch, don't touch. Weg, houd u. Don't touch. Draag me nog één keer aan, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, talk, don't touch, don't touch. Ga naar de politie, hè? Steek me dan don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, talk, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. Niet nodig hier in Aarschot. Ga naar Brussel, ga vriendjes halen. Daar hoort je misschien thuis. Goed? Wij zijn ook beleefd tegen u. Jij kunt nog niet eens beleefd zijn. Nooit geleerd? Kan dat best begrijpen. Waarom doe jij zo arrogant? Zet je zo opgevoed of zo?
Je bakken stinkt echt waar.
Ja, uw bakken stinkt ook. Hey, dale bien duro, dale bien duro, dale bien duro, dale bien duro, dale bien duro. Hey, no toques, hey, don't touch, ven, sube para arriba, sube, toma Adrián, Adrián, ven, graba, Adrián, graba.
I'm right here.
Say what now?
Right here. Take that first swing, bitch. Cause you hear me, I'm gonna fucking kill your nigger ass.
Say what now?
You heard me loud and clear. You heard me loud and clear.
Do what now?
Oh, back up. Back up. Give me my fucking $80 and get your nigger ass out of here.
Hey,
He owes me $80.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
I know. It's gonna be okay real quick. Right here. Come on, bitch. You're not gonna bitch nigger. Uncle Tom, motherfucker.
Hey, listen, please.
I'm right here, motherfucker. I ain't scared of you, fucking nigger ass. I'll beat the fuck out of you.
I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you.
Come on.
Please stop.
Damn.
Yes, I do.
Wait now.
I ain't going to jail for that nigga.
That man now, piece of shit, man.
I ain't going to jail for that nigga.
Shit.
I ain't going to jail for that. I ain't going to jail for that nigga. You owe me $80. Pay me right now, nigga.
You hear that shit, right?
Yeah, you heard it loud and clear.
You hear that shit, right?
Right here, bitch. Bitch ass nigga. Go to your fucking white ass, fat ass girlfriend.
Say what now?
You heard me loud and clear.
Come on, girl.
Yeah, go on, fucking.
Woo! What now? Woo! What now? Say what now?
What?
How you do it? How you do it? I'm gonna fuck you up. Come on. I'm gonna beat you up. Fucking ass cheeks, man. All that nigga shit. What's up? I ain't gonna beat you. You keep calling me a nigga, I'm gonna hit you every time.
Every time?
Every time.
Bro, you don't want that again. Walk away.
Every time you do that shit, bro. That's wrong.
Why?
You don't got no reason to
You
call
owe
me
me
a
$80.
nigga.
You owe me $80.
Call me a nigga again. Call me a nigga again. Call me a nigga again. Use the N word again, motherfucker.
Nigger! Loud clear. Keep real.
Don't judge me for videoing.
You're right.
Don't judge me.
I'm not. I want to too, but I'm like
I'm the.
Take that $80, you fucking nigger. I'm gonna
beat his ass.
No.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother Tyrique Hudson and all our people who unjustly lost their lives. It's too many people to ever name. So many stories that has been lost. But we don't have any other choice to get on code and protect our children. When we support each other, we can build our economy. When we build our economy, we can build schools for our children. We can build institutions designed to protect us. They are showing us in our face how they really feel. We think trying to join them will make us exempt. We try to convince them what we go through, but they know, they understand better than we do. They're the ones who created this system. And until we have a nation, a government, an army to back us up, we're going to continue to get the same results. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Right now, if we want to build our economy, all we have to do is nominate the most successful black business people and put them in charge strictly of helping fund and grow black businesses. And then those businesses can come to our areas. And then we can shop there and support them. And in return, they can hire us and give us jobs. But when they come to try to destroy it, and they will come, we have to be ready. We have to be able to protect ourselves. That's the one thing that we have to learn, how to protect ourselves. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.